Welcome to another Frisco ISD podcast. I'm Matt Wixon, the district's facilitator for athletics. The 2023-24 school year is still ongoing, but it has already been an incredibly successful year for FISD athletics. Today I'm joined by Jerry Littlejohn, the district's managing director for athletics, to talk about that success, the role that athletics play in a student's education, and also how parents can help support and encourage a child who is interested in sports. We'll also talk about the newly created Athletics Hall of Honor. Don't forget to stay tuned until the end of our episode for the latest Frisco ISD news. Welcome, Jerry.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt.
So Jerry is finishing up his first year as the district's managing director for athletics, but his time with FISD dates back to 1992. He's been a teacher of multiple subjects, a coach in multiple sports, and was a longtime assistant athletic director before taking the top leadership position in athletics. Frisco ISD now has 12 high schools and 18 middle schools with athletic programs. So you started in 1992. Not much has changed then.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Well, it feels like a different world, but is there, aside from the growth, anything that stands out to you that has changed over these last 30 years or so?
Yeah, it's interesting to think back when I first came here. When I came to Frisco, I had grown up in a big 5A town, which was the biggest classification then, and I just remember my experiences were that you kind of played one thing. And I remembered that I had some friends in college that they went to smaller schools and they played everything. And so when my wife said she wanted to move up to Frisco, one of the things that was intriguing to me is that it was a small town. And I thought, man, this would be a great place to teach and coach and live. And I had no idea what was coming at the time. I mean, at that time I took a job coaching middle school football, and I was a varsity assistant in baseball, and the middle school was called Frisco Middle School. That was the middle school when I got here, one middle school.
Yeah, we didn't need multiple names.
We didn't.
That was it.
We didn't. So we have one middle school, one high school, and then we had Acker Elementary that was K through 2, and then we had Rogers that was 3 through 5, and that was it. That was Frisco ISD at the time. And I thought, wow, this is great, this small town. And then after a couple of years, Dr. Reedy started talking about, man, growth is coming. And I'm like, yeah, sure
Right,
it is.
right.
And then here we are now.
Yeah, new growth was coming, but it was hard to foresee the kind of explosiveness that we are to now. But it's funny you brought up that, you before coming here, you were with big schools, or your experience was with that, and people, like they specialize in baseball, basketball, football, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we've always emphasized here in Frisco ISD, while some kids do that, but the opportunity is there, right? We want to encourage them to try everything they can.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that intrigued me the most. And that's one of the reasons I've stayed here all this time. I think even though we are huge now, I think the student opportunity model and trying to give kids as many opportunities as you can is a very important thing. As I said earlier, and that's really just based on my experience. I look back at my experience in high school, and it was great, but I didn't know anything else. And then people that I know that went to smaller schools and they played all 4 sports, and and it's not necessarily that they were great athletes. It's just they had opportunities to play everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And I would say that my athletic abilities were very average. And so unless I was focusing on one thing, I probably wasn't going to make it, to go off and get an education. So it worked out for me, but man, I would have loved to have had the opportunity that some of the kids have in Frisco ISD to participate in multiple things. And that's always intrigued me. And I've always thought that was important. And that's why I've stayed in Frisco for as long as I have.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about the successes this year, but I don't want to get past your comment of, being like an average athlete. I do want to point out that Jerry played Division I college baseball as a pitcher at Centenary College. So you're kind of the barrels or the bars a little higher than what you're kind of putting out there. But I do get your point in that sometimes you have to specialize in a sport to compete at a school that's that size, that situation. But
well, I appreciate that. It's that was from hard work and probably limited athletic ability, but that's okay.
whatever works, puts it all together. So successes this year. As we're recording this, we're getting ready for a trip down to Georgetown for the state soccer tournament, and we have both the Wakeland boys and the Wakeland girls will be playing in semifinals. And I think most people who are even remotely familiar with Frisco ISD athletics knows how good our soccer programs are and especially Wakeland. They've been so good. But before we talk a little bit about that, certainly want to talk about in the fall, we had Centennial Tennis win a state title. We had Reedy Swimming the girls win a state title early this year. And then just recently, the Liberty girls basketball team won a state title. So that's 3 state titles already in our district. Any other successes? I mean, there's been a lot of successes, but anything else that you wanted to mention about kind of what's going on or has gone on so far this year?
Yeah, when you look back at the sports that we had in the fall, we had I think we had like 37 student athletes that qualified for state in cross country. And of course, our volleyball programs are outstanding. At one point in the playoffs, it was our 4 teams in the regional quarterfinals to advance to region. We didn't advance as far as we have in the past. I think in past years we were at the state semifinals, but we didn't. But we have great volleyball. And, usually when we do get beat out, we get beat out by the state championship.
Right, that's right.
State championship team if it's not us. So have a lot of success in volleyball. Wrestling, I think we had between 50 and 60 wrestlers at state wrestling. We had, as Matt said, we won a state championship in swimming at Reedy High School, but we had over 70 swimmers represented at the state meet. And, Panther Creek also finished as a runner-up in swimming in 4A. So we have a lot of success at swimming, a lot of success at wrestling. We're going to continue to have success in the spring as well. We're going to have close to 40 golfers participate in the regional golf tournament next week. We'll have a lot of success in spring tennis, and we'll have some success at track as well. We got area track this week. We'll advance quite a few student athletes, both 4A and 5A, to the regional meet and then to the state meet. So the success is all around. I feel like we have some strong baseball and softball teams that might make a run as well. So we're looking forward to the spring and seeing which of our teams can get to the state semifinals and state finals. It's kind of one of those things where we feel like somebody's going to do it from Frisco. Somebody's going to represent us there. And as Matt said, soccer, you think about soccer in Frisco ISD, we had 14 teams make the playoffs, which is outrageous in and of itself. But this year we had 5 teams that won regional semifinal games and played in the regional finals to go to state. And it ended up, a common group going down there, which is Wakeland boys and girls, and we're excited about that. But just to think that we had 5 different teams represented in the regional finals is amazing to us with that opportunity to go. Yeah,
the depth is crazy. I mean, last year, Lone Star boys won the soccer title, and it was the Reedy boys who knocked out the defending champion Wakeland boys.
That's right.
So it's like you just got to get through Frisco. That's your number one thing, to try to get through Frisco to get down there to state.
Well, and that's the other thing that happens, too, is by the time we get to the playoffs, we're so prepared because of the competition that we have within our own districts.
Well, so for you, I mean, we're talking about a huge school district. We talked about the growth. What are the biggest challenges for you of overseeing a large athletics program?
For us in our office, I would say making sure we have great people, which we do. We're very fortunate at the campus level. And then prioritizing what we need to be spending our time on. That's probably a big challenge in our office with myself and Chris Birch and Becky Craig and Deidre Rucker, and then of course Mr. Wixon helps us out. We got a staff that is second to none, but we do have a lot on our plate, and it's just trying to figure out the best way to spend our time on not just a daily basis but a weekly basis. And then helping prepare our leaders at our campuses with the ability to solve problems at their campus.
Right.
It's almost impossible for us at the top with 10,000 athletes and 650 coaches to micromanage in such a way that we're making all the decisions. So it's up to us to have great people in place. And then since you said that, probably the biggest challenge to that piece of it is that we've got to continue to retain our great employees, our great teachers, our great coaches. And so last year we did have quite a few folks leave, and we're doing our best to try to stem that tide and keep the great ones here. We're always going to, when you have 650, you're always going to be replacing some.
Sure.
But trying to minimize that number is a key to us. And I know Frisco ISD works real hard on retention packages and retention ideas and concepts to try to keep people here. And so that's probably one of our bigger challenges as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned 10,000 student athletes. I mean, it's well over 10,000 now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And that just kind of blows my mind still thinking about it. That includes middle schoolers, but, 18 middle schools, 12 high schools. It's great to think that there's so many kids being affected and having that experience with athletics, but still that gets me that we have that many kids participating.
Another piece of it that's interesting too is just kind of thinking about this question is that in Frisco ISD, even 5 years ago, 7 years ago, the participation levels in our athletic programs, especially in team sports, was pretty even across the board. And so kind of one of the newer things that we've been dealing with recently is that there are fluctuations across the district in participation number in different team sports. So that's been a little bit different and a little bit challenging for us as well.
Right. Excuse me. And we recently, the last couple of months, had the UIL new 2-year realignment. For some people who don't know what that is, UIL oversees athletics here in Texas, where they organize it. They don't, I guess you could say oversees it too, but they put the teams in districts, and you'll hear things like Class 4A, Class 5A, Class 6A. Well, 11 of Frisco ISD's high schools are in 5A, which is the second largest classification. Panther Creek is in 4A, which is the third largest, I guess you would say. And eventually Panther Creek will move up with the other schools. But a lot of people still talk about Frisco ISD being a large district, but we don't have those 6A high schools. We have the 5A high schools again for this realignment. And, that's kind of part of the student opportunities model. And you were talking about kids getting to play a lot of different things. I mean, how does that benefit a student athlete, being at a 5A school, or in case of Panther Creek, it's 4A, but certainly a smaller school than some of the ones that surround us?
Well, for me, I hate to reflect all the time on my experiences, but, our own experience are what shape us and kind of give us an opportunity to decide what we think is important. And as we talked about earlier with the student opportunity model, there's so many opportunities for kids. And I know what athletics meant to me, what my coaches meant to me, the things that it taught me. We talk a lot about future-ready learning, resiliency, the ability to have integrity, the ability to work closely with others and teamwork, the ability to lead. I mean, we have so many student athletes that are involved in athletics, and they may not be the leaders right now within that program, but what they're learning is they're learning the skills to lead when it's their time. And I feel strongly that the kids that leave Frisco ISD athletic program, that's what they're doing. They're going off and they're successful in college. They're successful in a trade, and then they're leaders in whatever they choose to do. So to me, that's the biggest impact I think that athletic programs have, is that they prepare student athletes for success later.
Right.
And academics, that obviously those are extremely important. And what we are there to do is to support the academic progress that they make in the campus, but we're also there to prepare them for the future.
Well, that's a good lead into, obviously Frisco ISD is extremely strong in academics. It has a great reputation. I think last year we had more than 100 national merit semifinalists, and would read these stories about the kids who are acing the SAT and the ACT and going off to really prestigious colleges. And we're really proud of that, obviously, as a district-wide. But I think sometimes there are some parents who think, well, academics, obviously academics are very important, but they get a little worried that athletics may take away from their child's focus on those academics. What would you say to a parent like that?
And I'll just kind of go back to what I was just talking about, is that, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the student whole. And academics, as I said, is a big piece of it, but the social aspects and the strength that kids gain in those areas in athletic programs, and again, the ability to learn to lead, to work cooperatively with others, resiliency, the ability to get knocked down and get back up. I mean, it's one of those things where students learn through failure, and we talk to kids all the time that it's not winning and losing, it's really about winning and learning, because you're learning, and sometimes we learn as much or more when we lose, because we got to figure out how not to let that happen again. So that's a big part of it. We're just trying to develop the whole child, and athletics, I think, is a huge component of that within Frisco ISD.
From your experience as a teacher and coach and athletic director, how can parents best encourage and support a child who is playing sports?
I think about this one a lot, and I think about, again, my own experiences and how I was brought up. It was interesting because my father he was, excuse me, he was a very big guy, but he was very humble, very kind, but he was very attached to what I was doing athletically, all of us. But the role that he played was one where he was not a yeller and screamer at games. He was not someone that when I finished, he's like, why did you do this or why did you do that? There was enough of that going on the field and the dugout, letting down your peers if you failed, letting down your coaches if you failed. And my dad was pretty wise in that he understood all that. So the ride home was always quiet, and that it always ended with him just telling me that he was proud of me. And I think what that did with me as a pitcher in baseball, and especially as one that was closing out games, is kind of like a kicker in football. A lot of times everything rides on you when it gets down to the end. And so there were many times where I learned a lot because I did. There were times where I failed and I was unsuccessful, which meant the team was unsuccessful. But he was never critical, always helpful, always supportive, always one that told me that he was proud of me. And I never had that to worry about. It was enough to have that burden of letting down my teammates, letting down my coaches, and he knew that. So I never had to deal with that with my dad. So that's kind of how I've always looked at it. And whenever parents have asked me that, that's kind of what I tell them. I said, just be there to support them.
Yeah.
Take them and get them ice cream.
Right.
Where do you want to go to your favorite restaurant? Just tell them you love them when they get in the car.
Right.
And I have one of my closest friends has a kid playing right now at Memorial, and he doesn't even bring it up.
Yeah.
If a kid wants to talk about it, he'll talk about it. He doesn't even bring it up. He just loves to go watch him play, watch him compete. And then if he has questions or if he wants to talk about something, then he brings it up and he talks about it, and that's it. So that's always kind of been my thing, is that there's enough pressure on those kids,
right,
when they're competing, and they got they feel bad enough when they strike out, or they feel bad enough when they fumble the ball. They feel bad enough if they miss a dig. They feel bad enough if they miss a putt. The parents just being there to support them and lift them up. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think we do have great coaches in the district who can do those kind of encouraging things too. And I feel the same way as you with my sons playing sports, playing baseball. It's just give them space, know that they're not there to please you, and that's not something that they have to put pressure on themselves about. That we're going to be happy with them no matter what happens. And if they want to talk about something, then we do it later or whatever. But just to be there, it seems, for parents.
That was exactly right. I mean, to me, that piece of it was just completely out of the equation. I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to worry about, what my dad thought or I didn't have to worry about that stuff.
Right.
So that was one less piece of pressure that you had on you. So
it makes it more enjoyable for you too. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, finally, one of the things we're really proud about in Frisco ISD in the athletics program is that we have in Frisco ISD Athletics Hall of Honor. We had our first induction ceremony back in January. Gosh, it's been a blur since then. I'm like, it's been that long.
It has.
But talk about that, if you will, a little bit about, what that brings to the district, or how long you wanted to do something like that, and, how cool it is to honor our former stars.
Yeah, it's interesting, that the talk of that's been going on for, I don't know, probably 10 to 12 years. Coach K started it, talking about it, and then nothing really ever came to fruition. And then Coach McDowell, when she took over, she talked about it, and then we decided to try to implement it. And I kind of took a lead on it at that time. And, it was something that we worked on for about a year and a half straight, just trying to get everything squared away. And there were so many people involved. Matt was involved, and of course staff at our office all were involved, and it was just one of those things that there was a lot of work on the front end. We had all of our committee members, basically 10 committee members throughout the district that have either been here for a really long time or they're currently employed in the athletic director's office. But they had a lot of input. They provided us with a lot of information about potential candidates to be nominated. But it was a long, arduous process. But it was something that I feel was fantastic once we got it. The program itself that we created went about as good as we could hope for, I think. And just the excitement in that room from the people and the gratitude that they had on that one particular day, and then even weeks following, it felt like it was a huge success. And I think it's something that the community is really embracing. And since you brought that up, Matt, we got to start thinking about meetings on the next year. Start trying to put some
that's right
list of nominees together and get us our first meeting with the committee members. Start discussing candidates in next year. But yeah, it's something that I think we inducted 15 different entities, whether it was individuals or teams, and it was a big list. I don't think the list will be as big this year, but we had 120 years of history to catch up on a little bit, and we'll probably still be doing some catching up, but it won't be 15 this time, and we'll kind of hopefully we can weed that down to some well-deserving folks on who's next, and we can get them inducted next January on a corresponding date from this past January.
And I like that. I mean, we have the categories, obviously athletes, coaches, but also contributors, because it really is, using the cliche, it takes a village to build an athletics program and to have success for these kids and the opportunities. And so many people have been involved over the decades. And as you said, it's been over 100 years for Frisco High School and the school. So we're catching up on a lot of things. But it's really, for me, it was an eye-opener to find out these stories of people who, were great athletes, great coaches, and the people who were supporting them, and to be able to get to honor some of them is really cool.
Right. It's amazing. In my 30 some odd years here in Frisco, all the people that have come and gone, whether they were board members or they're just booster club members or they're people that announce at football games. I mean, the number of people that have played a key role that weren't necessarily employed with Frisco ISD or weren't an athlete is massive. I mean, there's just so many that have contributed to everything that's going on in Frisco ISD athletics.
It's definitely a proud component of the school district, and we're excited to talk about it. Thanks so much, Jerry, for being here today, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Well, thanks for the time, Matt. Appreciate it.
Now stay tuned for a little bit of what's going on in Frisco ISD.
Here's a look at news from around the district. Recently, Frisco ISD named the 2023-24 District Teachers of the Year. Congratulations to Bledsoe Elementary's Tara Yell and Lawler Middle School's Scott France, whose dedication and passion for teaching have truly shone through. This summer, the Frisco Education Foundation is thrilled to offer 2 academic summer camps. Middle school students who are passionate about STEAM are invited to register for the highly anticipated Mindbender Academy. Additionally, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders keen on entrepreneurship can seize the chance to join the FEF Entrepreneurship Summer Camp. For more information, visit friscoeducationfoundation.org. And lastly, 4 Frisco ISD theater programs have advanced to the Area One Act Play Contest. Congratulations to Emerson, Frisco, Lebanon Trail, and Panther Creek High Schools, and break a leg as you compete this week for a chance to advance to the state level competition.